Tens of thousands of people packed into one stadium. The lights of London glowed red across the city. And one name got the world's biggest media outlets, from The Guardian to Billboard, writing the same kind of praise. His name is Jimin. And that night, London fell in love with BTS all over again. In this video, we're breaking down every single piece of international media coverage on Jimin and BTS's performance at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, London. From a perfect 5-star rating, to a hair moment Billboard called Samson-like, to a fan cam picked by one of the UK's most selective fashion media outlets, to a fashion item that sold out in a matter of hours. We'll also dig into how BTS got here, what fans and netizens are saying on social media, how this compares to their Wembley concert 7 years ago, and why a moment like this matters, not just for ARMY, but for the global creative industry as a whole. So get ready. Stick around until the end, because this is going to be the most complete rundown you'll find anywhere. Background of the concert. Okay, let's start from the beginning. On July 6th and 7th, local time, BTS held 2 nights of a concert titled BTS World Tour ARIRANG in London at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. This wasn't just any concert. It marked BTS's major return to the UK after 7 years away, since their last performance at Wembley Stadium back in 2019. 7 years is no small stretch of time. There was a global pandemic that froze almost the entire entertainment industry. There was mandatory military service that each of the 7 members had to complete, one after another. And there was a long wait from ARMY, the name for BTS's fanbase, that finally paid off across these 2 historic nights. And the results? Incredible. Both nights were a total success. Tickets sold out in roughly 30 minutes after going on sale. Around 130,000 fans attended across the 2 nights, setting a record for the highest attendance since Tottenham Hotspur Stadium opened back in 2019. Just imagine that. A world-class football stadium, usually home to Premier League matches, transformed into a sea of light sticks and thousands of voices singing along in Korean. And it didn't stop at the stadium. BTS also brought a massive project called BTS The City, which transformed London's skyline for nearly a week. The London Eye, the city's iconic wheel, was lit up in red to match the ARIRANG theme. K-pop-themed boats sailed down the River Thames. There was even a special exhibition at the Korean Cultural Centre UK and a collaboration with the British Museum. In other words, this wasn't just a concert. It was a full-scale cultural takeover. From Wembley to Tottenham, BTS's long journey. Before we dive into the media coverage in detail, it's worth taking a step back to look at the bigger picture. Why does this comeback to London feel so emotional, both for the members and for their fans? The answer lies in everything that's happened since 2019. Back then, BTS made history as the first Korean act to headline a concert at Wembley Stadium, one of the most iconic venues in both football and music. Since then, the world has changed dramatically. A global pandemic brought almost every major music tour on the planet to a halt for 2 full years. But amid those restrictions, BTS released Dynamite in the summer of 2020, a song that catapulted them to a level of mainstream global fame no Korean act had reached before. After that, the milestones kept coming. A Billboard Hot 100 #1, Grammy nominations, individual solo projects for each member, and finally, the most challenging chapter of all, mandatory military service. In South Korea, all able-bodied men are required to complete roughly 2 years of military service. Each of BTS's 7 members carried this out in stages, one by one, staying connected to their global fanbase as best they could amid a strict training schedule. And now, in 2026, they're back together as a full group of 7. This London concert is part of the ongoing ARIRANG World Tour, marking their first full comeback as a complete group since the Permission to Dance on Stage tour in 2023, which at the time only stopped in Seoul and a handful of cities in the United States. The ARIRANG album itself was released in March, named after the Korean folk song widely regarded as the country's unofficial anthem. Even though it leans into Korean cultural heritage, its production actually involved major names from the Western music industry, including producer Mike Will Made It, Kevin Parker of Tame Impala, and several other international collaborators. So when RM, the group's leader, spoke on stage about their memories of Wembley in 2019, while wearing a cap featuring former Tottenham player Son Heung-min, the same one he wore back then. That moment wasn't just simple nostalgia. It was a marker of just how far this journey has taken them. The Guardian, a perfect 5-star rating. Now, let's start breaking down the media coverage one outlet at a time. And we'll begin with what might be the most prestigious name on this list, The Guardian. The British outlet gave BTS's performance a perfect score, 5 out of 5 stars. In their review, they described the show as pure joy wrapped in extraordinary diversity. But what makes this even more interesting is how the review ended. By the closing lines, The Guardian openly admitted they'd found their favorite member after watching the show live. And that member was Jimin. An outlet like The Guardian, typically known for being critical and keeping a professional distance from mainstream pop culture, went as far as admitting the show made them want to learn Korean. Take a moment to think about that. This isn't some small compliment from a typical entertainment outlet. This is an admission from one of the most respected news organizations in the world, one that usually covers politics, economics, and heavy social issues. When mainstream Western media admits to being converted after just one night, it says something about how powerful the stage presence BTS has built really is, and how much of a role Jimin's personal charisma played in creating that lasting impression. It also points to something bigger about how the line between pop culture and mainstream culture keeps getting blurrier. Media that usually keeps its distance from idol phenomena is now handing out this level of recognition. The Samson-like power hair moment. Now let's get into what might be the most talked about detail since the concert began, Jimin's hair. Billboard, in their roundup of the best moments from the London show, specifically highlighted Jimin's long hairstyle as one of the standout elements of the performance. Since the comeback with the ARIRANG album, Jimin has been sporting a new look, long blonde waves that Billboard described as a blend of an iconic 70s hairstyle with a dramatic touch reminiscent of a classic fantasy film character. But what really caught everyone's attention wasn't just the hairstyle itself, it was how that hair came alive on stage. Billboard even called it Samson-like power, a reference to the legendary biblical figure Samson, whose strength was said to lie in his hair. Every time Jimin headbanged along with the choreography, his hair whipped dramatically through the air, creating a visual that Billboard called one of the strongest identifiers of his performance on this tour. In that same article, Billboard even wrote that at certain moments, Jimin's hair was at peak power, a phrase they used to capture just how dramatic that visual became every time it caught the stage lights. This says something interesting about the modern entertainment industry. In an era where visuals and small details can go viral within minutes, something as simple as a hairstyle can become its own visual language, something discussed not just by fans, but by an outlet as major as Billboard. Dazed and the body-to-body fancam. Next up, there's Dazed. The British fashion and culture outlet is known for having a sharp eye and being extremely selective about the content they choose to feature. Dazed posted a fan cam of Jimin's solo performance of Body to Body on their official TikTok account. What makes this significant is Dazed's own position as an outlet. They're not a typical entertainment publication that covers every piece of K-pop news. Dazed is better known as a benchmark for fashion and alternative art culture, a media outlet that's usually very selective about mainstream pop culture. So when they chose to highlight this specific moment from Jimin's solo performance, that sends a fairly strong signal. It means Jimin's personal appeal has crossed over into a more niche, fashion and art-oriented media circle, not just conventional entertainment coverage. Body to Body itself, according to several reports from fans who attended in person, became one of the emotional high points of the night, especially since the middle section of the song weaves in the melody of the folk song ARIRANG, complete with dancers in traditional hanbok and flag bearers circling the stage. The cat ear beanie that sold out. And this might be the most concrete proof yet of just how much influence Jimin has over fashion trends, the cat ear beanie. The hat comes from British designer label Charles Jeffrey Loverboy, a brand known for having its own dedicated fan base in Europe, particularly among fans of alternative and avant-garde fashion. When Jimin wore it during the first night of the concert, the hat sold out instantly on the brand's official online store. And here's the most surprising part, it sold out while the show was still going on. Just take a moment to picture that. A niche fashion item from an independent brand, not some giant global label, sold out in a matter of hours, purely because one artist wore it on stage, on the first of 2 nights. This is a real-world example of what's often called the idol effect in the fashion industry. It's a phenomenon where a single style choice by an idol can instantly drive demand on a global scale, without the brand needing to run any large-scale marketing campaign at all. This kind of phenomenon isn't new in the world of K-pop. But the scale of it today moves much faster and much wider, thanks to the combination of social media, fancams that spread within minutes, and a global fanbase that's always watching every detail of their idol's appearance. Social media reaction and the viral wave. Now, beyond the official media coverage, there's one more thing worth talking about: how this wave of reaction spread across social media. As soon as the first night's concert ended, BTS and Jimin related hashtags immediately started trending across platforms, from X to TikTok to Instagram. Short clips of Jimin's headbang moment, footage of other members reminiscing about Wembley, and clips of the closing fireworks all circulated widely within hours. One of the most talked about moments was when V, also known as Taehyung, spoke to the crowd with visible emotion. He called London one of his favorite countries, and admitted he gets chills every time the audience sings along with them. Another moment that went viral was Jimin's spontaneous interaction with the crowd, walking around the stage and asking ARMY what song they wanted to hear. A number of song titles were shouted out by fans, and the moment was captured from multiple angles by attendees, then spread widely online as fancams. On the more emotional side, there was RM reflecting on the difficult years since Wembley 2019, the pandemic, military service, and finally being able to stand in London again as a complete group of 7. His words about how deeply he'd missed the fans quickly became one of the most widely shared moments on social media. This shows something important. Major media coverage from outlets like The Guardian and Billboard does strengthen the credibility and reach of the story to a general audience. But the viral wave on social media is really what keeps these moments alive, spreading them far beyond the people who watch the show live. Comparing Wembley 2019 and Tottenham 2026. Now let's directly compare these two historic moments, Wembley 2019 and Tottenham 2026. Back in 2019, BTS made history as the first Korean act to headline Wembley Stadium. At the time, they were a group on a rapid global rise, even though they already had a massive fanbase. 7 years later, the situation looks completely different. BTS has now returned as a group that has set world chart records, earned Grammy nominations, and built a reputation as one of the most influential acts in modern music history, while also having just come through their toughest chapter yet, a temporary separation due to mandatory military service. In terms of scale, the concert at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium even set an attendance record higher than the venue's typical average since it opened. The stage format was different too. The ARIRANG tour used a full 360-degree stage concept, ensuring every corner of the stadium had a complete view of the show, a step forward compared to BTS's previous tour stage formats. But what really felt different wasn't the numbers or the technical staging. It was the emotional weight of it all. At Wembley, they were celebrating an achievement as a group on the rise. At Tottenham, they were celebrating something far more personal, enduring, being apart, and finally coming back together as a whole. That's exactly why so many moments from this concert felt so moving, not just because of the scale and quality of the production, but because of the real story behind it. Why this moment matters: culture, economy, and SDG 8. So, why does this deserve more attention than just idle gossip? Because what happened in London isn't just about one successful concert. It's a real example of how music and pop culture can act as a bridge for cultural exchange between nations, while also strengthening Korea's creative industry on the global stage. Let's trace the chain of impact step by step. A powerful stage performance drives international media coverage. That coverage then draws public attention to the visual style and fashion on display. That attention to fashion then drives instant, direct product sales. And all of this happens within days, sometimes hours. Then there's the impact from the BTS The City project we mentioned earlier. Activations like this drive tourist visits and boost local economic activity around the venue, hotels, transportation, and food and beverage businesses, throughout the concert period. A phenomenon like this aligns with the spirit of SDG 8, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal for decent work and economic growth. SDG 8 promotes innovation and the growth of creative industries as a driver of sustainable economic development. An entertainment industry like this creates jobs across multiple sectors: music production, fashion design, concert logistics, tourism, and the digital creative economy, including the kind of social media content and fan cams we discussed earlier. A single concert can drive an economic ecosystem far larger than just the tickets sold that night. And this isn't a new story. South Korea has long been known for turning pop culture into one of the pillars of its soft power and creative economy, far beyond just the entertainment industry itself. What happened in London is the latest proof that this strategy still works remarkably well, even 7 years after their last visit to the very same city. What's next? The ARIRANG tour schedule. Now, for those of you wondering where BTS is headed next on their world tour, here's the rundown. The London concert is part of a lengthy European leg of the ARIRANG World Tour, which had previously stopped in Madrid and Brussels. After London, the tour continues on to Munich and Paris, before moving on to North America, Latin America, Asia, and Australia. Overall, the ARIRANG World Tour is designed to be one of the largest tours of BTS's career, with dozens of tour dates spread across multiple continents. This confirms that their comeback isn't just a temporary return, it's a genuinely planned new chapter on a full global scale. Interestingly, London remains the only city in the UK included in this leg of the tour so far. There's been no official announcement yet about any additional UK dates in a later phase of the tour, which makes these 2 nights at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium feel even more special and rare for ARMY across the UK and Europe as a whole. So that's the story of the 2 nights that shook London. From the Guardian's 5-star rating, to the iconic hair moment praised by Billboard, to the fan cam picked by Dazed, to the beanie that sold out in hours, to the wave of reaction across social media, all of it points to one thing. Jimin and BTS's influence reaches far beyond the concert stage itself. This is a story about how music, fashion, and pop culture can connect with each other, creating an impact that goes way beyond just 2 nights of performance. So, out of everything we covered today, which moment do you think was the most epic? The Guardian's 5-star rating? Billboard's Samson-like hair moment? Dazed's fan cam pick? Or that beanie selling out? Let us know in the comments below. We're genuinely curious which moment is your favorite. And before you go, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the latest news about BTS and Korean entertainment. And don't forget to turn on notifications, so you're the first to know every time we upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching until the end. See you in the next video.